Welcome back, guys. So in this video, we're going to choose your business name and then register your domain name. Now, let me preface by saying that if you already have a business name and you already have the domain already set up, then you don't need to go over this video. You can just skip ahead. But if you don't already have these pieces in place, then this training is for you. So this is where we start getting into the implementation piece of it. So be sure to implement and follow along as we're going through all the steps. So with that being said, let's get right into it. So in terms of choosing your business name, I have a few tips and guidelines for you. All right, so the first tip is going to be to avoid hard to spell names. And the rule of thumb here is that you really shouldn't have to be having to explain how to spell the name when you're telling someone, right? And so example, you might be thinking about replacing an I or slightly misspelling something and having really long names that are just hard to spell out. So I want to give you an example. I ran an e-commerce store and it was called Archandise, and it was supposed to be like a combination of art and merchandise. But when I was picking out my domain, I made a spelling mistake. So you can see here, merchandise is spelled with the A, right? And I accidentally put E. So I was pretty much surprised, like when that domain was available. And then like I bought the domain and I got everything set up. And when I started marketing and started telling people about it, and they were like, "Oh, okay, how do you spell that?" Because I couldn't find it. And I had to like let people know like, "Oh, it's with an E, like ARTCHENDISE.com." Right. And yeah, it was pretty embarrassing, like the fact that I made that mistake. But yeah, from the get-go, try to choose a name that's going to be easy to spell, and let alone try not to make that mistake of misspelling it when you're choosing the domain name. All right, so my next tip here is to get the .com domain name. And the reason for that is that you want to really increase your perceived credibility. And a lot of the times, .com just sounds better. I know that there are all these new ones like .io, .ai, .so. If you can, try to go after the ones that have the word .com at the end. Also, a lot of people will just assume that your business has a .com with your domain. And so if they just hear the name of your business, they might just type in the name of your business and then put .com at the end if they want to look you up. So overall, there are a lot of reasons why you should want to choose the .com. And later in the video, I'm going to show you exactly how you can go about finding those domains. All right. My next tip here is to use a name that actually conveys a meaning. So you want your name to be intuitive and to reflect some of your value. So maybe it's a reflection of what you do as a company. Maybe it's a reflection of who you serve. If we just look at some examples of some of the big popular company names, like Salesforce, for example, it's very intuitive. You know that they provide software that enables sales team to manage their entire sales process. If you look at ClickFunnels, for example, they're a software solution that builds funnels and generates more clicks. Another one is Close.com, right? They are a software that help you close more deals. Look at Shopify. They help people start online websites. With our name, Easy AI Club, the reason why I chose Easy AI was because I wanted to help people understand AI as easy as possible and for them to really like use AI tools to make money and to really live the type of life that they want to live. So that's why I chose the word Easy AI. There's so many other examples, but really the idea here is that if we take a step back and think about what we're doing here as AI agency owners, we're really helping our clients implement various AI systems and software solutions so that we could help them increase efficiency within their business, right? Help them save more time, help them grow their business, increase their profitability, right? So we might want to start thinking about some of the keywords that we can be using in the name of our business that would reflect some of the ideas and some of these values while also being intuitive. So the next tip here is that make sure that the name sounds good when you're saying it out loud. So apparently Jeff Bezos, when he was first thinking about the business Amazon, apparently one of the initial original ideas was that the name would be called Cadabra, like abracadabra. But apparently what was happening was that when he was telling his lawyer about it, they were hearing cadaver. So he had to keep correcting them Even though they went with that name initially, Bezos decided to change it again, and this time it would be called Amazon, which I think a lot of people would argue was probably a better choice. So just some of the things to think about, and there are ways that maybe you can incorporate alliteration in your name. So if we think of companies like Coca-Cola, for example, the name rolls off the tongue really easily. We're using that alliteration with the same letter in the same sound between the different words. Or maybe you want to think about incorporating rhyming into the name. So when we think about names like StubHub or Jelly Belly, right, they're very memorable because there's some rhyming going on. So with that being said, my last point here for you guys is really not to overthink about this. I know that a lot of people spend way more time than they should be with this process. And so trying to think of a name to make sure it's perfect and just getting into that analysis paralysis, it's just not worth it. So my biggest advice here is do not overthink it. You can always change the name later on. The goal right now is to just choose a name and get this business started. It's definitely not the most important make or breaker in your business. I promise you, in the grand scheme of things, the name of your business isn't going to be the most important thing in all reality. So again, this process should not take you more than 20 minutes. Just start doing some brainstorming and just follow some of the basic guidelines and tips that I gave you, and we should be fine. All right. So with that being said, we could use this GPT to help you brainstorm some ideas. So open up the link that I'm going to give you, and then you're just going to tell it about your business. So for example, I teach people how to start an AI agency business. All right. Just let it know what you do, and it'll start giving you some names here. Okay. AI Novo, AI Genius, Biz, at least. Yeah, I would not choose that one. Summit, not bad. Okay, these are not bad, not bad. It's a good start. So I want to have the word easy, right? So I want to make AI easy for people. So that's one of my goals. So let's see what we would say. Printable name, easy AI. There we go. So this was the name that I did ultimately choose. But yeah, there are other good ones. Simply AI, not bad. This might be a little bit difficult, right? Because some people might use the word I, but some people might use the word Y. So try to avoid that. Bright AI, that's okay. Easy AI, yeah, okay. Skill flow. Yeah, so go ahead and use this GPT to brainstorm some ideas. Once you have a few names picked out, let's go to lean domain search and see if that domain is available. So for example, if I like the word easy AI, I just put into this search bar, and then it will give me different domains that are available. So easy AI blog, easy AI world. All right, so I like this one here, just easy AI. So if I want to see if it's available, I just click .com, and then it says that it's available. So I can go ahead and purchase it. I would recommend buying it from places like Namecheap or Cloudflare. I usually buy all of my domains in Cloudflare just because they provide the extra protection with domains. So if you want to purchase it here, you would just come under domain registration, register domains, and then just search for the one that was available, justeasyai.com. All right. So I'm going to purchase it. And then you're just going to put in your contact info and payment information. And then when you're done with that, you just click purchase, and then you would own the domain. All right. See you in the next one.